One. A very good evening. We are here for another episode of Open Floor with Nishank, and today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Prashanth. And people who've been watching this know for a while now that this is the time for the formal round of introductions. So I'll just go with that, sir, and then probably we'll delve into the intricacies of different topics that we have in mind today, especially for the aspirants, right? So Prashanth sir is an advocate and founder of Shivadass and Shivadass, and he also holds a distinction degree in competition law from Queen Mary University of London. And that's kind of been the vibe of the season also, sir. Just for your knowledge, we've had a lot of experts who've somewhere either done an LLM or a degree from Queen Mary University of London. So QMUL has been the has been the highlight that way this season. In competition law, Prashanth sir has notably advised IVF, that is the Indian Value Fund, Fast Track and Meru before CCI, a car manufacturer in the spare parts manufacturer investigation before the Delhi High Court. And prior to setting up Shivadass and Shivadass, Prashanth sir has worked with top law firms in India and abroad, including setting up practice verticals and offices in London, and has gained tremendous experience working with the Solicitor General of India for more than 10 years. Right. Prashanth sir is also one who's delivering lectures at various symposiums. In fact, he's also part of workshops, and you'd see him even judging moot court competitions. That is something that you can also find on his LinkedIn. Prashanth has also appeared in over 1,000 commercial litigation and corporate matters, taxations for clients before Supreme Court of India, Delhi High Court, Karnataka High Court, Competition Appellate Tribunal, right, and various other forums. So a very warm welcome to you, sir, and it's really fantastic to have a guest like you on this platform.
Thanks, Nishank. I don't think I'm worthy of that introduction, but thank you. You've been very kind.
No, sir. I think I don't know why everyone who comes, is an absolute legal fiasco, but tries to be very humble about the thing that no, it's all right, and the introduction and all that. But I feel, sir, genuinely okay. Also, with respect to there are various aspects to your particular profile, and you are one of our unique guests in the sense that a lot of people that have come, let's say a partner that comes in, they've done corporate all their life. They have been at a firm all their life. This switch that you've made from corporate and to litigation is something that is like, it's not like people don't do that, but as for the guests that we have had on our show, that is something that is very unique about you. So sir, you have had the experiences of both the worlds. What is your take on the idea of the basic difference that exists for someone who's either aspiring to be a corporate lawyer or a litigation lawyer?
I don't think it's right to say that I've had corporate exposure at all, to be honest.
Okay.
Uh, because I don't think it's fair to those people who've been doing corporate all their lives. But I distinctly remember I was doing my internship maybe in my third year or fourth year when I was back in law school. I wanted to try and test out what are the different ways of the fields of law. You have litigation, you have an NGO, you have a firm, you have a company. So you go in-house, you can go to litigation, you can go to a chamber. So there are different flavors to the field of law, right? So I wanted to experiment all of those different fields of law because I honestly wasn't sure what I wanted to do post law school. But litigation has always been something that I've grown up with because I'm a second gen lawyer. So I've seen my father argue in courts. I've seen him argue in courts since seventh or eighth grade. I've been to court since then.
Right.
So I've seen him argue in courts, but that was also a time when a lot of people were growing up in the profession of litigation at that point of time. This I'm talking about is early 2005, 2006 is what I'm talking about. So a lot of people were, recognizing the fact that litigation is the growing sphere. A lot of people are already made big names by then. Right. So I sort of wanted to see how litigation is. And then, of course, I'm sure this generation would turn around to say that we got into law because of suits. So in that sense, I got into law because of, Boston Legal and, practice and all of that was there before. But life is very different from those TV shows. It's not as rosy as people think it is. People don't walk around in suits in those big fancy offices unless you're in big law. So I sort of realized in my third year itself that I don't want to do M&A work. I don't want to do general corporate work because I did a very good internship at AZB when I was in my third year, and AZB was also just a growing firm at that point of time, since it was set up only in 2004 as AZB. Before that, it was EZB, and Zia Modi used to run her own show at that point of time. So it was still an up and coming firm, and M&A was just picking up as a tool in India. Everybody was getting to know what M&A was. People were getting a flair of what a corporate lifestyle is. Till then, a company, you'll have different divisions in a company. You'll have an IP division within a company. You'll have a general corporate division within a company. You'll have a commercial division within a company, etc. So that was more of a corporate flair.
Sorry to interrupt you. Like, this is the early 2000s, 2004, 5, or have we moved?
And yeah, about 5 to 10,
Okay.
between 5 and 10 is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that's when I decided that I don't want to do M&A at all.
Right.
So I steadily went on to my litigation internships after that, and I stepped into litigation right after law school. So I've always been doing litigation all throughout.
Right.
But I did have different aspects of litigation that I've drawn and borrowed in over a period of time. And now I'm more or less settled at the kind of areas that I want to practice in. But it's taken me almost 12 years to settle in and figure out what are the areas that I want to practice. So basically, you will have to tell yourself, if you're a law student today, that it takes at least 10 years and 5 years of law school for you to figure out what you want to do in the field of law. And even then, you can, up and coming fields of law are always there. It's 10 years now, and today data protection is coming in. Back then, we were stepping out of law school and antitrust was just picking up.
Right.
IBC came in when we had just about finished 5 years of law school, etc. Companies that came in after the 13 companies that came in after I graduated, etc. So there's a lot of development that happens after law school during the course of your practice, but it takes a long time for you to figure out what you want to do.
Right, sir. No, thank you so much, firstly, for saying that. Also, in the sense that I see a lot of students panicking over the fact that, I'm 2 years down the line, or I am in my fourth year of law school. I have not figured out what's going on with my life, or maybe, whether I want to do arbitration plus litigation, or whether I want to go into general corporate, whether I want to do M&A and all that. That is something that's very important, in the sense that you're saying that, it's very important to take your time and understand that everybody goes through their own process. But sir, I'll try and be a little bit also more realistic about facts here. A lot of people, and I mean, there are different law colleges in the country, right? Not everyone's at par with each other. A lot of people don't make it, let's say, into the big NLUs or the generals or whatever it is. And for them, like, if they're a first generation lawyer and they're trying to do litigation, a lot of people have told me their stories that it's extremely difficult even to find ground, because there's so much competition, in the sense, whether someone who's coming from a second generation or third generation or has that added advantage. Do you feel that there is a sense of difference, given that you are also very well suited to answer this question because you were a second generation lawyer? Does this put you at a big edge, or is it something that you feel that fades out with time? It is just the merit that stands, and it's not really a factor.
I think I've been fortunate. See, unfortunately, you don't decide where and how you grow up and which family you come from.
Right.
That's not something that you decide. Even if I came from a family of lawyers, the choice was always left to me to figure out if I wanted to do law in the first place, or
Absolutely.
if I wanted to do something else, right?
Right.
So having chosen law, I think I've been fortunate enough to have that kind of a backing and to have that kind of a background. And I'm also not going to shy away from the fact that it is certainly difficult for first generation lawyers. But I think that difficulties maybe comes with time, and maybe for 4 to 5 years, probably it may get you a second gen or a third gen lawyer, that sort of a model gets you into the door for possibly an internship, or possibly for a recruitment at a law firm, or maybe even to get you some few cases here and there, right? But in my experience, honestly, I don't think a judge will look at me and say, listen, you're so and so son, and therefore I'm going to hear you more.
Absolutely.
Right? You are so and so son, therefore you are bound to know the law better. In fact, it stands at a little bit of a disadvantage for me
Absolutely.
because 90% of the people start comparing me to my father.
Right.
Right? Because it is assumed that he will do, or he is capable to deliver that sort of a caliber that the previous generation has done, which is sort of unfair to me as well. But I think I come from a place of privilege, therefore I can say that. But for a lot of people on ground and who come into litigation, I think there's a lot of opportunity now. I'm not going to say that the opportunities were, not there in the past. If you look at most of at least the 3-4 big top firms in India today, they're all second and third generation lawyers. Right? I don't want to name law firms, but I guess people know. If I tell you top 5 law firms, I think people will tell you that all of them are second gen and third gen lawyers, right? But that doesn't mean that they haven't done well, right? But that also doesn't mean that first gen lawyers of their generation haven't been doing well, right? There are a lot of great first gen lawyers who have come up, who have become great senior counsels, who are absolutely fantastic, right? And they've done great work over the course of the last maybe 40-50 years of the profession. But I think over time, everybody will realize that 10 plus years is something that everybody will have to put in, whether you're a first gen lawyer or whether you're a second gen or a third gen lawyer. Because without the kind of hard work, without the kind of effort that you put in, I don't think it's fair to say I can possibly go to my father and ask him, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going to possibly argue in court tomorrow. And he can give me a tip on how I can argue in court, right? But if I have, but he can't argue for me.
Exactly.
Right? I have to go and argue in court tomorrow. At the same time, if I'm a first gen lawyer and if I have a good senior that I can bounce off my idea with the senior as well. So there's not much of a difference or a gap there in that sense. Right? But I do agree that there is a lot of difficulties for first gen lawyers to sort of step in and come through. But I think you should also realize that the amount of opportunities that are there today is immense. Right? Everybody can, you don't need to spend 10 years in the legal profession to start your own practice anymore. Absolutely. Right? You can step out of law school immediately. If you have a good network, if you have a good set of seniors, if you have a good community, college network, etc., you can start your practice immediately after law school. And some of the kids these days who are coming out of law school are doing absolutely great. So I don't think it's that much of a problem, not as much as it used to be way back in the 80s and the 90s. But it's still there. The problem still persists.
Right. No. Thank you so much, sir. Even for the part that, it's very important to acknowledge it, but at the same time, I think even when we had Major General Nilendra Kumar on the show, and I asked this question to him, and we were talking about whether it's, Sibyls or anybody else for that matter, somewhere somebody started it. And it is only then that, the future generations have maybe benefited from it. But somebody, and you can be that somebody. So don't really create this particular blockade in your mind in itself. If you're defeated there only, then I don't think you have a journey.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that it is more of a mentality and a mind conditioning that you have to do, right? I started off from law school saying I don't want to do anything that my father does. And I want to be better than my father in what I do, etc. Right? But it takes time to get there. I mean, he spent 40-50 years in the field of law, and because I've come out of law school and because I'm a second gen, that doesn't mean that tomorrow onwards I'm going to be known as well as he is, right? So it takes time for people to realize that, okay, this boy or this girl is good, and they have a flair for the law, they have a flair for argument, etc. There are a lot of people who've switched streams away from the first or the second gen. Mr. Sori Sarabji was a fantastic litigator in court. Absolutely. While Mrs. Zia Modi started off as a litigator, she's a queen in M&A today, right? But that doesn't mean she can't go to court and argue.
Absolutely.
Right? She started her life as a litigating counsel, but then she realized that there's a lot of potential in the M&A fora. So therefore, she moved to M&A, and she's one of the top corporate lawyers in the country today, right? There's a whole firm that she's built with that. So it depends on what kind of second generation. And this is not just in the field of law. If you take cricket, for example, Tendulkar's son has not been able to do as much as Tendulkar, right? But you also need to give him opportunities to be able to showcase. But The problem is there are a lot of other people who have come in apart from Tendulkar's son, right? So it's not just because of Tendulkar that he will get a job anymore or he will play cricket anymore,
Yeah.
right? So it happens. Sunil Gavaskar's son did not strike well, right? Roger Binny's son did not strike well, right? So there are a lot of examples where second generation lawyers have failed.
Right. No, that's true.
Right.
And in light of India winning the World Cup, the cricket reference also really, I think, bodes well for the audience. But sir, even with respect to the fact that you're talking about this difference that is there, and what I've constantly gathered from what you've tried to say is that the kind of network you develop, the kind of seniors you meet, the essentially the mentors you also have in life. Now, this is one very important aspect, and to anyone who's trying to figure out, so there are a lot of people in the market now. I can personally vouch for Mr. Prashanth Shivadass from whatever little knowledge I've had of him and whatever training and courses he's gone on to do. Sir is an excellent mentor. If you ever want to get into touch with him and he's comfortable with it, please go for it. But sir, in general, in life, like when you're in a different law school, this idea of even figuring out who to trust, because there are a lot of people out there with a lot of experience and exposure, and their journeys are very different. And maybe they might not be they might be the best lawyers in court, but they definitely might not be the best advisors or mentors, because they have a different sort of benchmark that they've set for themselves, and they want ways a certain thing to be done a certain way, right? So how do you exactly figure out this network while you grow? And if you can share some tips on that, and how exactly do you identify certain mentors in your life that really let you over the edge and make that mark?
See, I've always believed finding mentors is the hardest job that you can have.
Right.
And you can find mentors at different stages of your life, right? When you're in law school or just stepping into law school and you go through that 18 to 23 sort of a phase in life, there's a lot that you want to do, there's a lot that you want to achieve. So the biggest go-getters either in the corporate field or in the courtroom is something that everybody will go to, right? So when I started off sort of studying in law school. First of all, I didn't come from a very big law school back then, right? I was the third batch of Christ University,
Okay.
and I was the first batch of the university sort of a model. And the
Right.
two batches before me went into Bangalore University, and I became a university after that. So
Right.
sometime mid third year is when Christ became a university of that sort. So therefore, we were the first batch of Christ University. Now we were also the first batch that had CLAT,
Okay.
and there was a lot of confusion at that point of time
Yeah.
whether it is going to, because that time national law schools were only six, five or six maybe at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
point of time. And Bangalore, Hyderabad, Calcutta, Jodhpur, Bhopal.
Right.
I think GNLU also was there at that point of time. So there were six law schools, and Delhi was just opening up, but Delhi was not part of CLAT at that point of time. There was an independent examination for Delhi. I don't know if they're now part of CLAT, but there was an independent
I
examination for
think
Delhi.
ILET happens, I think, as far as I remember.
I'm not sure, and I think Cochin also had a separate exam at that point of time.
Right. Right.
And we come from a very conservative background where my father and mother said, listen, if you get in Bangalore, you will go. We are not letting you go outside of Bangalore.
Okay.
Right. So even I got through Cochin, and I think I got through Jodhpur or Bhopal. I'm not sure which one I got through. They said no. And Jodhpur and Bhopal had just maybe had one or two batches that had graduated at that point of time when I joined. So between a Jodhpur and a Bhopal, and between Christ, from a lawyer's perspective that my father was, he said, see, I'm going to treat both at the same level.
Okay.
But the kind of network that you have in a national law school with the seniors and the mentors and all of that, we didn't have that at that point of time in Christ. So we
Absolutely.
had to build that network over time,
Right.
right? So we build that network over our internships. You build your network over, moot courts, paper publications, and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
So we were all excited to go to, Supreme Court and
Mm.
intern and go to high courts and intern and all of that. And Supreme Court at that point of time had these massive big cases. Justice Kapadia was the chief justice at that point of time, and Mr. Gopal Subramaniam was at his peak. Mr. Salvi was at his peak at that point of time. Mr. Datar was doing all of these SEBI matters at that point of time. Shifted his focus from a little bit from constitutional law to SEBI, and he was doing all of those cases. So you had these big names coming out in court at that point of time. So that 18 to 23 sort of a model, you would be like, no, I want to be Mr. Salve. I want to be Mr. Salve. I want to be Mr. Gopal Subramaniam, right? But you don't realize that Mr. Salve and Mr. Subramaniam have spent 40 years trying to become Mr. Salve and Mr. Subramaniam, right?
Absolutely.
So that happens, that takes time. And then I had this very fortunate internship that I did with Mr. Balbir Singh.
Okay.
He was back then, he was a senior partner with DSK Legal.
Okay.
And he was the panel counsel for Competition Commission.
Right.
And the cement cartel case was being argued that time before the then compact. Now it's the NCLAT, but back then it was the compact.
Okay.
So the entire 1 month, all he said was, there was a conference room full of files, full. He said, in one month, this is your life. All you have to do is just handle this case, and you have to go through every single piece of paper.
Right.
You have to go through every single piece of paper. You make notes, you do whatever you want, but not about 25 days into the internship, he said, I want a full-fledged presentation of what this case is. And basis what you argue, basis what you tell me, I will go and argue. Right?
Okay.
And that's a lot of responsibility that comes for a young student of law.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, that kind of responsibility even associates don't take these days, right? But that's a big responsibility for a student of law at that point of time. So it was a lot. I learned a lot in that internship. That was the flair for competition law that I had at that point of time. And then of course he left DSK Legal. He got designated as a senior counsel, etc. But I've always admired him for his work style, his work ethic, his work-life balance.
Right.
You know, all of those things that I'm realizing it today. You know, I'm 12 years out of law school, and today I'm realizing the impact of all of those things. Where he wakes up at 4 in the morning. He wakes up at 4 in the morning. He reads files till about 6:37. He goes to court. He comes back. Believe me, after he comes back from court at 4:35, Nishank, he spends 2 hours either in the gym or in the pool or something, getting his physical physique, you know, done, set up, all his mind clear. He comes back at 7:30, and he reads up till, 10, 11, 12 in the night. That's the kind of mental balance that you need to have as a work-life balance. So a lot of people, when they come and tell me work-life balance right out of law school, I don't deny it. I don't deny it. A lot of people have it sorted out in their own heads. But I think the phase between 23 and 30 is the ideal phase where you can work 24 hours a day. There is absolutely a lot of freedom for you. You don't have to get married. You don't have to listen to your parents. You're earning. You can stay in a city away from you. You can have all the fun that you want to do. You have a great set of colleagues who have come out, etc. And you don't realize it, but when you work with a great set of colleagues, most of them will end up becoming partners at law firms 10 years or 15 years down the line. You can bounce off work with each other. Yeah. There's so much that you can do in that little bit of that space that you make up. You know, in suits you call it bullpen, right?
Right.
Where you have those 10 or 15 juniors sitting in one sort of bracket and working. Yeah. Those 10, 15 can become partners 10 years, 15 years down the line and start bouncing off matters and ideas with each other. Yeah. So you can collaborate on work together. You can pitch matters to each other, etc. There's a lot of work that you can do. Right. So I think as a community also we have to grow where we realize that everybody works towards the betterment of something. I don't know if everybody has society in their mind. Right. But if everybody has getting rich in their mind as well, but that is also a community that needs to grow, right? If everybody has to get rich together, then everybody needs to work together. Right. So that is something that you need to figure out when you find mentors. Right. At 18 to 23, you have different sets of mentors. At 23 to 27, 28, you have different sets of mentors. At 28 to 35, you have different sets of mentors, right? So I admire Mr. Datar a lot. You have insane number of videos of Mr. Datar on YouTube on how he started off his practice as a lawyer, how he wrote books, how he wrote articles, how he sort of presented. And I've briefed Mr. Datar in so many matters in courts and his oration skills are extraordinary. Right. So these are things that you learn by watching seniors. There's no harm in doing it. right?
Absolutely.
So these are things that you learn by. You can have different techniques. So Sehwag, when he came out to bat, a lot of the people, when he started batting, he said he looks like Sachin when he bats because his stance was the same. But
Right.
what did Sehwag say? Sehwag say, I learned everything because of Sachin. So it
Right.
was a dream for me to open with Sachin and play with him, right? So it's always a chance that you can have when you go up in court and suddenly your senior says, listen, I'm stuck in one more court. You start arguing the matter.
Yeah.
The judge says, okay, you start arguing a matter. And on the other side, you have Mr. Salve arguing. It's
Absolutely.
the greatest opportunity that you have in your life, right? So that's my advice: is stay on ground always. Take your time in figuring out what you want to do. Take your time in figuring out where your mentors are,
Right.
how you want to condition it, and you can find your mentors accordingly,
Right.
right? You want to be in the rat race, go ahead, be in the rat race, right? You want to be 20 years in a hardcore law firm doing all the big, M&As and all of that, and you want to be Zia Modi, then find Zia Modi,
Yes.
right? Your head is sort of caricatured to that, to say that this is what I want to do. A lot of people have that right
Right.
out of law school. I didn't have it, right?
Right.
I didn't know what I wanted to do out of law school. So
No.
there are a lot of people, and mentors will come accordingly.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, sir, definitely. And like two things that I constantly pick up, first is your cricket analogies, but secondly is the fact that you remember the people that you've worked with, the amount of contribution they have, and this sense of gratitude that you have for them is what probably separates you from the rest also. And that is something that, as a student, anybody should inculcate. Even with respect to, colleagues, either whether they are working on a law firm, thinking about students also somewhere down the line that, my batchmates or people in the college somewhere down the line they may be a partner at some law firm, so
Yeah.
nothing goes to waste, especially in the sense in the amount of network you develop. That's why they go on to say that network is net worth. But sir, I have more of a serious question here. So 1,000 commercial litigation and corporate matters, and even more than that, that is no joke. And after this 10 or 12 years of experience and the amount of grilling that you have gone through, the Prashant that was appearing on the first matter and the Prashant that appears in courts right now, what would you go back and say that, to the first time you appeared, like to any young lawyer who's appearing, and like you said that there is a situation like some senior lawyer is arguing, and you maybe as someone who's just stepped into the profession, you're not very confident in the fact that you can go ahead and do this and something like that, like something along those lines, wherein you're not really I mean, either you feel that you've not done this before, and the guy there is so much senior, or the respect that you have for that person is so much. How do you balance that off in your mind, especially when you're really young and you're stepping into this profession and you're going up against someone who's like let's say he's the Sachin Tendulkar of the profession, and you're just starting out to bat. How would you?
Since you mentioned cricket references, there was a very good interview of Adam Gilchrist just after he retired.
Mm.
And he says, every ball you have to start at zero.
Right.
Even the previous ball, you would have hit a single and you would have got 100. But the next ball that you face, you have to start at zero. You can't start at 100,
Right.
right? Why? Because that conditions you in such a way to say that, listen, this is how you have to play every time you go. Your concentration should be there. So my suggestion to the 12-year-old back me remains the same, which is ignore everything else. Right? There is a file that is given to you.
Okay.
Your senior is there, not there. You are to assist your senior. Your senior for some reason is not able to make it to court, or you have been given a matter for you to go and argue in court. It can be any court.
Right.
No matter is big or small.
Small.
Okay, a consumer forum, a state forum, a district court, a high court, Supreme Court, any of the tribunals, they are all the same. They are
Right.
all the same. No matter should be taken lightly, is the first advice I'd give to all kids who come out.
Right.
Okay, even if you're going for an adjournment or a passover, etc., please read the file end to end. Number one, right? You should be in a position to be able to tell the judge if there is any. See, there are these small. Dinesh Karthik, when he comes out to bat, he scores 18 runs in 3 balls and he goes away,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the reason is there is a small 10-second gap where you can get the relief for the client that your senior will argue for the next 10 hearings.
Right.
That is a possibility. Right. If you're just able to tell the judge that, this is what has happened and this is the document I want to just show you, he's able to give you relief. If he's admitted that, and if he admires it and he says that, okay, this fellow has got a point, he'll give you the relief. So there's no need for a senior to come and argue for the next 10 hearings on that one single point. So what have you done? You have created your own image in front of the judge. You have created your own image in front of your senior. You have created your image in front of the client. The client saves money. So the client is hell-bent on sticking with your senior, or he wants to stick with you, etc. So you make a lot of other diverse possibilities because of that preparation that you do. So till today, if my wife often keeps telling me, if I have matters on certain days, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And in the same balcony, I will sit, and I have two phones. I have one phone which is only for recording purposes. You don't get recorders anymore. So I have one phone for recording purposes. So I will write my arguments. I will literally write down and say, please, my lords, I am appearing for the petitioner. This is the matter. This is the serial number. Cost title is at so and so. And I write my arguments down. It may span for 4, 6, 8 pages, whatever be it, right? And then I will record myself. I record myself to be able to sound to myself that I'm convincing enough. And then after I got married, etc., my wife is an engineer, so she has nothing to do with law. So I take up about and in court you need a maximum of 10 minutes to maybe present your case if you're lucky. Right? In the Supreme Court, you'll barely have 10-15 seconds. Right? So 10 minutes is a lot of time for you to explain a very complicated issue to a judge. So after I record myself, I'll give it to my wife and I'll say, just listen to this recording. If you are able to understand it, then I know I've cracked the judge. Right? Because a judge on a sitting day hears about 10 different kinds of matters. Right? On one matter, he's hearing divorce. And the other matter, he's hearing murder. The third matter, he's hearing a 482. The fourth matter, he's hearing a tax matter. The fifth matter, he's hearing a data protection matter, let us assume. Right? So you can't expect a judge to sit and know every single area of law. It's impossible. It's physically impossible for a judge to know that. Right? So you need to prepare yourself adequately in such a way where, you leave everything aside. Leave the other side, leave the judge, leave who's sitting behind and all of that. I keep telling myself, we had a very good professor in law school. His name was Mr. Yashas. He passed away when we were in law school itself. And he had a very good tip for people who were scared of doing moot courts. He said, when you're standing in court, right, and you have about 100 people sitting behind you in court, and you're facing the judge like this for 100 people sitting behind you in court, etc., and you're not prepared. Let us assume you're not prepared, right? The judge will literally strip you down completely, right? You will sweat top to bottom. At that point of time, you will lose all sense of, self-respect, and that fear and everything will just fall flat. That day, you will realize what it is, to start having that self-confidence to prepare well and all of that. So we realize that the hard way. When you get knocked down in court by a judge, every judge is not going to be convinced with the point that you choose. The other side may come up with a better point, right? So every judge is not going to be convinced with that. So you need to prepare and tell the judge that this is what it is, and this is how you have to look at the matter, and this is our perspective. I'm sure the other side will place their perspective, and then you have something to decide.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I will tell myself is patience. Just have patience. That's all.
Absolutely. No, sir, this is in fact really very important in the sense that you shared a practical insight also with the recording thing. When we used to have public speaking in our school also, this is a very common technique is to speak to the mirror, is essentially you speak to your self, and this recording really in general also anyone who has this fear of public speaking, maybe try speaking in front of the mirror, try recording yourself. It really helps out as much as, it might just sound like कि क्या ही होगा और मतलब क्या होगा मिरर के आगे खड़ा होके मैं बोल दिया, but it really helps, and also it builds that self confidence that I think if you can answer yourself and you're true to yourself, you can answer anybody.
Absolutely.
Really really matters. But sir, one very important aspect is that you kept pointing out, even with respect to moot courts. And there has been a lot of fuss and cry about moot courts. As someone who's been in the law school, has seen a lot of moot courts happening. A lot of the judges, in fact, I think recently a video was circulated wherein junior who had just joined, I think, litigation. I'm not exactly sure about the details, so I might be incorrect about it. Essentially, he's going on to cite judgments in cases wherein the idea is to present the facts first and make the judge understand what the essential issue is. He's obviously, I think, citing Keshavananda Bharti and all that, and the judge calls him out for that. The problem is that the moot courts, a lot of people do believe, even the experts have come out and talked about moot courts, that the purpose with which this started, the concept started, now with time it has swayed away from it. It has become a little bit about making those superficial arguments, citing those cases. What is rather more important is first understand the case at hand, present your facts, like you're saying that you're starting at zero, present your facts articulately. As you pointed out, even with respect to the fact, let's say, you have 10 minutes, and that too, on a good day, you have 10 to 15 minutes to complete your or present your arguments. You need to be very clear on what the fact is, what the issue is. Do you think these things are draining out in moot court? It's like a double-edged sword. Like essentially, it's going both the ways. To some people, it is actually helping, but on the other hand, it's also pulling out from the main purpose with which it had started.
See, I'm not sure about the history of moot courts, right? And we just joined law school, and we were told there's something known as the moot court competition, etc., where there is an artificial problem that is created, and lawyers who actually battle it out in court act as judges, and they come and they judge you in moot courts, etc. I don't have a problem with moot courts per se, because for a lot of people who want to get into litigation and they have a lot of fear, this helps a lot,
Okay.
right? They end up there are a lot of slow risers, in as a human brain also.
Right.
There are a lot of people who are slow risers,
Right.
right? A lot of people who are articulate and this, that, and all. I mean, I used to be very scared of public speaking myself.
Right.
And I had a lot of my classmates who used to be very good with, general knowledge, basically, and used to ask questions and have discussions in class and all of that. And I used to be very scared of even opening my mouth in class.
Right.
But I don't think I can now sit for a physical seminar if it doesn't have 200 people in it.
Right.
Right? I don't like it if I don't have a good crowd. I don't like it if I don't have a good
Yeah.
audience. And all of that is thanks to moot court, because I've never been good at elocutions or debates or anything like that, because the kind of flair that you need for those things are slightly different from a moot court. I'm a very concise presenter. I will do point by point. You can't do that in debates.
Right.
You have to be extempore in debates, right? So for me, that way moot court helped a lot, right?
Okay.
But I often see, after having come to this side of the judging and all of that,
Competition.
I often see that the judges want to start educating the students who come in for the competition as to what the law is and what's the see, a moot court is never about what the law is.
Okay. Okay.
Right? It's never about the law, because a problem is a very hypothetical problem. There is never a right or wrong answer for that problem,
Yeah.
right? The whole point of a moot court is for you to get acquainted to what a courtroom is,
Yeah.
or what a courtroom will be like in the future, right?
Yeah.
And over the last, I think, 5-6 years, I have often seen, I have not judged a lot of moot court competitions in the last 5-6 years. But when I do very specific law schools I go to, and when I do, I've often seen a lot of people emphasizing on, not the strict sense of articulation, which is the actual case,
Yeah.
but, trying to say,
More
indeed,
about-
your lordships, grateful, your lordships. Nobody says all of these things in court,
Right.
right? You need to be respectful. I'm not saying don't be respectful. You have to be respectful in courts, yes.
Yeah.
But don't waste your time in that. Can I address your bench as lordships? What if the bench says no? Don't address them. Right? What if the bench says no? We are three ladies sitting here and you're addressing us as lordships. Right? Don't get into all of those nitty-gritties. right? And can I present the facts of the case? Are you well aware of the facts of the case? If you're well aware of the facts of the case, can I move on to the issues and all of that? No. If assume that the judge doesn't know, because how many of us as judges, I don't think I have an idea of when I have read a moot court problem 10 days before the moot court competition. I probably read it that morning before I come in for the moot court competition, and I listen very clearly to the bench memorial or the briefing that happens before the moot court competition, right? So I have fair idea of what is happening in a moot court competition and so as a problem. I don't read memorials,
Exactly.
right? I don't know what they've given in the memorials, etc. So I don't know what happens insofar
The
as,
participant to clarify
right.
the present.
And you have and for me the other problem with the moot court competition is time,
Okay.
right? When you release a problem, you give them 30 to 40 days time to prepare memorials and send it,
Yeah.
right? And then once the memorial is submitted, etc., you have a month's time to prepare for oral rounds,
Right.
right? And then you prepare for both sides of the oral rounds, etc., and then consecutive
Like
days
a
it happens.
4 5 month process.
I'm sorry, buddy, that's not how life works,
Right. Right.
right? If you're in a chamber that's flooded with 100 matters on a given day, you will just be given 10 matters.
Yeah.
You will be given 10 matters and said, dude, read up all those 10 matters. You have to run across courtrooms, you have to hustle, you have to ensure that your matter is not called out and you're not there. Those are the things that you are doing on a daily basis, and 90% of those 10 matters will get adjourned or get passed over, or the other side is not there, etc. So you don't have to make submissions on law or on facts. You have to make submissions like 5 6 opportunities have been given to them to file their written statements. They have not filed their written statements.
Yeah.
Close the stage for filing written statements, etc. These are the kinds of arguments that you have to make, and you have to be very respectful about it when you do so, both to the judge and to the other side, right? So I think a moot court competition in that way has lost its charm that it used to have before. I think the whole end game of a moot court competition has lost its way somewhere in between, right? I think all of the law schools should sit down and figure out if they have to revive this moot court competition. Perhaps sit with actual lawyers, sit with actual judges for that matter, right? How many judges have you seen in final rounds in moot court competitions asking questions?
Right.
They will probably ask you one or two questions in that 45-minute slots that you have.
Yeah.
Right. I know so many senior advocates who have not even been to moot court competitions to judge finals. In fact, I remember when I spoke to Mr. Datar when I was in law school to call him for the finals of a moot court competition I was organizing in Christ. He was like, "I've never been to a moot court competition. What should I wear? How should I come? What questions do I ask?" These are the kinds of questions that senior advocates generally have when they come to a moot court competition, and they didn't have it in their generation. Right? No, Mr. Salve never went to a moot court competition for him to figure out how it is, right? If you ask Mr. Aditya Sondi, who's based out of Bangalore, he will tell you, I've never been to a moot court competition in my life.
Right.
And he's now a senior advocate today, and he practices both in Karnataka and in Supreme Court, right? And he's a very good orator for that matter. Right? So there are different aspects to a moot court competition that different people can pick and choose. Right? And I think for somebody who wants, I don't think I have ever looked at an application which comes to me when I hire and I said, oh, wow, you have done 10 moot court competition. Okay, come and join my firm. I'm never going to do that. Right? Or you have won. There are a lot of firms I know who says that unless you won moot court competition, we won't take you. Right? It doesn't matter if you win or not. According to me, participation is what matters. You could have learned a lot just by participating in a moot court competition. You don't have to reach the finals or win the finals of a moot court competition for you to learn something about the law. Right? So there are different aspects of a moot court competitions that people can pick and choose. Right? But I think the system of moot court, I think that needs to undergo a change.
Right. No, and even the idea that you're saying, even with respect to participating, I do understand. Obviously, anyone who wins, that's to their credibility. But the very idea that you understand or undergo a entire,
experience,
a thorough comprehension and experience of a particular. Let's say I am someone who's more interested in arbitration. I like doing general corp work and all that. But the last moot court competition I went to had completely stuff related to IPR and data privacy, right? And then I learned about generative AI. And the problem was based on that. So that is something so unique. I would not in my common parlance, because I have like sort of developed an area of interest in a particular field of work, and I'm like, I should learn more about this and all that. I would have never have thought about maybe what is happening, let's say, if generative AI comes into the picture. So that aspect to the moot courts is obviously there, but this paradigm shift or this change that you're talking about maybe really needs to happen. Even I agree with respect to the timelines. They make this like a huge 4 5 month process, especially if you're a part of a good competition, and it just feels so useless because you have a lot of other things going on, and then out of a sudden you have an oral round, and then probably your exams were going on, but then so like it just does not bode well for me.
Also, I think as a team in law school, after your internal rounds, and when you pick a law school
Yeah,
for one semester, I think you're stuck with just one moot court,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you're
You
stuck.
don't end up doing more than one moot court in a semester. So
Yeah,
even for people who want to do more moot courts, I
right.
think it doesn't make any sense to them,
That,
because you end up doing only, and by the time you finish that semester, which is the longest semester in the year, the odd semester, which is the longest semester, you're so tired.
yes, yes,
You finish your mid sems, there's a moot court going on, there's a paper publication going on, you organize some moot court, you want to be part of that also. Some culturals are happening, some sports is happening, something's happening. So by the time your Dasara vacations and your end semesters are done, you guys are burnt out, yeah. So,
absolutely. Yeah,
and your winter break internship hardly matters, because 90% of the bases are closed, right?
right.
If you get a good internship at a firm, etc., then okay, yeah, maybe you'll have some work to do there. But even in big firms, when you go, 10, 15 people will be sitting and loitering around. Half of you will spend lunch, some 1 hour, 2 hours lunch you will end up spending, because there's absolutely no work, right?
Right.
Because everybody is enjoying their winter break, etc. And your even semester, I think, what, 3 months, three,
Yeah.
4 months maybe,
Yeah.
and you really don't want to do much. You just want to enjoy and have fun.
Right. Right.
And by the time I think you come to your maybe fifth years, if you've gotten a placement,
Yeah.
moot court and all that, who'll do internship, who'll do moot court. That's
Right.
the kind of attitude that you get into, because you've already got a placement.
Already
So
got a
1 year is just gone,
true, 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 true.
right?
No,
So
that
that
is
I think needs to undergo a change.
yeah, no, that definitely needs to undergo a change. And even with these concepts, I think the idea of releasing it maybe 48 hours before, and then you don't probably have to draft that entire jargon. A lot of the things that are written are absolutely nonsense. If you read like, and you have been judging memorials, if you just go through a memorial, and you're like, a lot of this is just legal jargon.
I mean,
It is
I don't think I ever have. If you go to a court and you look at a court file, I don't think I have an index of authorities.
right,
Okay, I have a synopsis and I have the main petition and I have the prayer. So to that extent, a summary of arguments, arguments advanced, and prayer, etc., makes sense,
right, right,
right? But you don't need to put it as part of a memorial.
right,
Your memorial can be just arguments advanced and a prayer,
right,
and perhaps when you do an oral round, you pass around a synopsis and you say this is the gist of the matter.
right,
It
right.
it makes it more realistic that way, even for participants who come in and take part in a moot, right?
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I don't think I need an index of authorities and an index of books and index of this, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that adds to the practical aspect of things also much in a much better way, because the entire idea is to give you that court experience. But sir, to a more serious question, and we'll also are coming to the closing part of this interview. So I'll just have a couple of more questions, and then we'll end this session. But a serious question like this idea of perception, this perception of the kind of patience that you need to have. Now, a very realistic reality, a very realistic situation here in India is that a lot of people are not very well to do off. And that is something that is there. That is something even the students that I decided to do the interview with you sort of wanted me to ask. It's not, a lot of these people are in fact trying to work and feed off their families by the kind of work they're doing. And it's not very easy for them to kind of work in that bracket that a junior is essentially in a country like India is given. I mean, like a lot of the people, firstly, these people go through a lot of unpaid internships unless you're getting at a top tier law firm or a good chamber. And it is true. In fact, there are scams going around who are in fact charging money for taking internships and being called out on a daily basis. All this nonsense is also there, but the idea that not everybody is obviously as privileged, and the fact that they have to, let's say, work in a 15 to 20K bracket or 20 to 30K bracket, at the same time they have to live in a city that they're obviously, let's say I am in Calcutta, but I have to go to Bombay. That is going to cost money, and then I have to send some money back to my family. Now, how do you like? How does one expect them, or tell them this story of patience? How are things going to work out for them? And all this sort of chaos is there. Like, what is your take on this?
I'll come to the patients maybe a bit later, but I think as a system, there's a lot that needs to change.
Right,
Right, and it applies equally to both chambers. It applies to boutique firms, big firms, whatever you may, as an organization of an employment, if you may want to call it that,
right,
and as an employer, if you're employing
right.
uh, a law school graduate, I'll leave the internship a bit.
Yeah,
But if you're employing a law school graduate, I'm 100% sure it should be termed illegal if you're hiring them for less than even a blue collar job,
right, right.
right? Because you end up spending either a 5 year or a 3 year in studying the law, etc. So that whole idea, in the sense that because you're learning from me and therefore that itself is good enough,
Right.
as your income, etc. I think that's just farce.
Yeah,
I don't think that should exist at all. I think everybody should be able to pay.
yeah,
Now, how much they pay, etc., is a different issue altogether. It depends on the kind of clientele that you have. It depends on the kind of people who pay. A lot of the like the companies that are with me because I handle a lot of tax matters.
right.
And tax government is the biggest litigant in the country today. So even if they want to put a quietus to the litigation, it is not necessary the government to put a quietus to the litigation, etc.
Mm.
Right? But litigation, in a sense, even by the companies who come to lawyers, etc., is seen as a very long-term and hazardous process.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
So every company is not willing to shell out that much on litigation,
right.
etc.
Yeah,
Right? So for an employer, I would say that there is a lot that the employer has to balance. They have to balance costs that the employer incurs himself, and
right.
the cost includes office costs, salaries, and all of that. He has to this thing. And even when something is left out from that cost, etc., then he takes that home as a profit. Now,
Mm.
what is profit? How much he takes home as the profit? That is another discussion that some people are too generous in trying to give to other people. Some people are like, listen, see, I started my firm for my income and my profit. I will take my profit home,
Right, right.
right? So that's a different balance. But as a ground rule, I think and Madras High Court, I should commend Madras High Court, because they've come out with a recent
Yeah, yeah.
judgment saying that you should pay people. So I
Right,
think ground reality is that everybody should be paid.
right,
One.
right.
Second, I think what is the bracket that people have to be paid, etc., depends from the kind of society you come from, depends on the kind of place you come from, depends on the kind of place you're going to,
Right,
right? 50,000 in Bombay is very different from a 50,000 in Chennai or in Cochin or
right,
even for Bangalore, for that matter,
right, right.
right?
Hmm.
Because Bombay is extremely expensive,
Expensive.
right? But you can't tell people that I'm getting paid 3 lakhs in Bombay, therefore in Chhattisgarh also you should give me 3 lakhs,
3 lakh rupees. Yeah.
right? So if that's a life cycle problem that this as an institution, I think we all have to realize that this fundamental approach to not paying people should not exist. I
Right.
think everybody should be paid. Now,
Yeah.
how everybody is paid, etc., depends on the kind of circumstances you are at.
Right.
Everybody, unfortunately, if you look at this was a statistical data that I did when I was interning with Mr. Gopal Subramaniam when he was Solicitor General. He was then the Bar Council chairman, and he had just started this process of your All India Bar exam. So we were doing a statistical analysis of how many law schools are there and how many graduates
Mm.
sort of every year come out of law schools. And so therefore, what is the spread of the All India Bar exam that we need to have?
Right.
And back then, and this was, I'm talking about 2010, 11, maybe at that point of time, there were about 36,000 law students coming out of law schools every year,
Right. Right.
right? 2011. So I'm talking 10 years hence. And if not double, at least you're looking at 50,000 law graduates coming out every year.
Right.
50,000 law graduates, right? Even if you are to take 20 big law firms in the country today, and all 20 of them hire 100 students each,
Right.
right? You're looking at 20,000. What happens to the remaining 30,000?
2000.
2,000. Sorry. Yeah, that's 2,000.
Yeah,
Exactly. So what happens to the remaining 48,000?
that's true.
What happens to the 48,000? That's the kind of laws becoming more like an engineering now, right?
Yeah,
So that's the kind of people who are coming in, and everybody is not going to get a tier one law firm or a tier two law firm, right? So
yeah,
at some point of time, I think there has to be a harmonization between what students expect and
absolutely.
what employers are able to give,
Yeah, somewhere
right?
mutual.
Yeah. Now, if you ask me about patience, I'm very fortunate in that way to say that I have been able to start my own law firm.
Yeah.
Initially we started this out as two independent chambers, my father's chamber and my chamber. My father got designated in 2018. And
Okay.
then after that, we decided that we are going to start our own practice together because I was working somewhere else and
It was
he
a
was working somewhere else at that point of time. So we decided to start our own practice at that point of time. So it basically started with two independent chambers.
right.
And we said at that point of time, we will start from home.
Yeah,
We will not have anybody.
yeah,
We will take, if we are able to get 2 or 3 matters in a month,
yeah.
that's enough to run our house,
Right,
right?
right,
6 years down the line, we have an office of 30 people,
right.
right? It's grown manifold. There's a lot of client work that we do. There's a lot of different practice areas that we do, etc. And I'm very proud to say that two, three people who joined us in 2019, 20, etc., are doing exceedingly well in terms of how they fared,
Yeah,
how they've grown, how
yeah.
they handle work, etc. And their pay is equal to tier one,
Right, right, right. Yeah,
right? It it happens with time,
it happens.
and it also needs to come out of sheer comfort of that employer employee relationship and trust,
Right, right, right. No, and
right? It has to come out of trust for me to be able to say, okay, I can trust this person,
right.
and I know for a fact that this person is going to be there with me for a long period of time. It's a two-way street,
Yeah,
right? If you as a person are able and loyal to tell that person that yes, I am able, if you give me opportunities, I will shine and I will do,
right,
then it's the employer's responsibility to recognize that
right, right.
and say, okay, now I'm recognizing you here. This is your XYZ salary equal to a tier one. It cannot be a one-way street, absolutely.
Absolutely. No, no, no.
Employers have to recognize the fact that if somebody is going to be there with you for a long period of time, you have to be able to treat them and pay them well.
Right, right. No, that's definitely there, sir. And the fact that you bring out the mutual part of it is essentially what I think what you should be looking at also is the kind of place you're trying to get employed at, the kind of what you will also bring to the table is a question that you need to answer to yourself. Things cannot only be just thought of from the employer perspective that he's not paying me 50,000. Are you willing to, and are you able to, and do you have the skills to do a work that he should be essentially be able to pay you 50,000, and then employer obviously has to pay you that kind of money. That thing is obviously there, sir. But even like to this entire idea of a lot of law schools, in fact, have this idea that there are placement cells. And the corporate, the in-house internships and whatnot. Like the placement cell has a lot of other factors as well, like law firms coming in, the day zeros happening, the day one happening, and all that. A lot of law firms hire, and they take the associate. But it is true, a lot of people who've once like joined, and I'm not going to name any particular law firm, they've not been able to fit into the culture, or have not had a very good experience in general with the kind of attitude or the culture of the firm itself, right? And there have been a lot of instances, there have been a lot of stories, even with respect to people undergoing harassment, or for that matter, the way the seniors have treated them. Now, I'm sure even though you've discussed the positive aspects of having good seniors and all that, it is very much a possibility. And you could also share like something from your own life in regards to this. Not every senior is going to be good to you, and not everyone is going to be like the world is not like all petals and roses, right? There are going to be people who are in fact trying to maybe bring you down. How do you deal with a mindset like this? How do you once a student thinks that up to yaar, I got into a tier one law firm, or up to I got into such a beautiful place, and life should move on from here, and then you undergo this kind of an experience, and that is really like a setback for you. And then how do you overcome that? Where do you move on from there?
See, it boils down to what is your mental health scenario. I would look at it that way, right? I may come from a rich and entitled background and I don't have reasonable mental health, or
Right.
I may not come from a good background and still not have mental health. These are two kinds of people who are there today,
Absolutely.
right? These are the two kinds of people who are there today,
Yeah.
right? Now, the first one obviously has a very clear cut choice,
Right.
which is, listen, dude, I'll get any other opportunity anywhere else. So bye bye, and they'll walk away.
Yeah.
The second, unfortunately, does not have that kind of a
Right.
that kind of a mindset also,
Right.
because for them, but it's with great difficulty that they've got
Yeah.
this tier one opportunity in the first place,
Absolutely.
right? And they've had a lot of obstacles already, and that's how they've come to this tier one job. And
Yeah.
to come and have to face, a person or a culture or whatever be the case in that particular law firm is a very taxing thing for that person, right?
Right.
Now, I would tell those kind of people, especially having faced those obstacles, if you have a strength to still go through and maybe pace yourself for a year and a half somehow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can still go ahead, do it,
Yeah.
and then after 1.5 years, give, LLM, I'm going for an LLM, or I'm doing something else, or I've decided to switch streams or something. Those are the kinds of things that you can experiment on even at that point of time,
Right.
but not at the cost of your mental health.
Right.
I have been a victim of mental health myself.
Okay.
I know I have been through series of depression situations.
Right.
I have had suicidal tendencies also. I have gone through about 6, 7 therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists and everybody I've been to. So
Right.
I know for a fact that it plays a big role in the kind of work-life balance that you want to create, right? So definitely not at the cost of your mental health. I would say that you should operate in this kind of a workforce or a work environment.
Right.
But having said that, I have been at that side of the coin where I'm like, listen, dude, I work hard.
Yeah.
I work long hours. Why is the employer like this? Or why is the work culture like this? Or why is it like this?
Yeah.
Those are questions that have come to me when I have been, an associate or a senior associate or a principal associate or whatever that has been.
Right.
But I have also seen this side of the coin,
Yeah.
where I am, a law firm, and I am a partner in a law firm,
Yeah.
and I have clients, etc.
Okay.
What what is wrong if the law firm comes and says, listen, I am paying you 30 lakhs a year,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But I'm paying you 30 lakhs a year for you to do this job in 10 minutes,
Right.
right? I am paying you 30 lakhs a year because the client came to me yesterday and he wants a writ petition the next morning,
Next
right?
morning.
He's paying me X amount of money because he knows that I am able to deliver the next morning. And that is why I am paying you, right?
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with the law firm also saying that. I don't blame the law firm for having to do it, but it's also, there's a lot of back end, a lot of stuff happens,
Right.
right? There's a lot of client pressure. There's
True.
a lot of client and partner turbulence that happens,
Yeah.
right? There are a lot of things. And for some reason, the partner is not able to handle that kind of pressure, and then pins it down to the associate or the next, line under him. But
Right.
that's a partner's problem,
Right. Right.
right? That is a client problem. That is a partner and a client problem, which the law firm should manage, which is why you're a big law firm,
Yeah. I
right?
think.
So
Yeah.
that, I think it needs to sort of, there needs to be a balance that the individual creates for himself,
Right.
where he says that, not at the cost of my mental health. It's okay. It's
Okay.
fine. So what? I will not become a partner at the end of 10 years. I will become a partner at the end of 12 years. चलता है यार, ठीक है, 2 years only, no?
Yeah.
You don't lose out on much.
Right.
Not your life. You don't lose out on life.
Right. The life still goes on. No,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
even with respect to the fact that I think as an individual, someone who's joining a, let's say, a top tier firm, or who's trying to get into these domains, they somewhere have this feeling, and they are trained. I think the law schools convey it enough that you are going to be somewhere, like you said, like in your 20s and 30s, you can really work. We like, I think we as students also sort of understand that we are going to get a huge amount of work. We are, we'll have to push the limits and all that. But I think from the student point of view, I think what the idea is that the manner in which things are being addressed, right? From the day that I joined, I have had exposure in terms of internships. But from the day I have joined, it's not going to be like I'll be able to match the level of a partner or a senior associate and be like, this is how this is done. In fact, a basic due diligence checklist that should be at least shared and all that, that is also not done with the associates. And I think it's the manner in which the things are said. And then there
See, I
obviously,
think it's also an inherent problem where somebody who has gone through that and who has become a senior associate or a principal associate says, "See, listen, I have gone through it. Why should you not go through it?"
not go through it. Yeah.
Right? That is a mentality shift that needs to happen within the law firm circle itself.
Right. Right.
Just because you have gone through it doesn't mean you have to put other people through it. One. Two, I think as seniors, we also should realize that expectations don't really match.
Right.
You cannot expect, see, I can draft a writ petition in one night and give it to a client
Right.
because I have spent 10, 12, 15 years in the profession, right? You cannot expect that from a junior who steps in from a law school. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that, we are not taught all of these things in law school, but that's the reality. The
Right.
reality is that you learn, and that's why I think every person tells you under the sun that law school is very different from practice.
Practice. Absolutely. No, that's true.
Right? So people learn during practice. I didn't become who I've become.
Becoming.
I have not become a partner at a law firm because I was good from day one. That means I should have become partner on day one.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
I have become partner after 10 years because I learned to go through the process of handling a client, handling a court, handling a file, handling a draft,
Right.
handling negotiations, handling how to learn contracts. First few years, I know people who have done only formatting in various drafts. They don't even type the draft stuff.
Right. Right.
They
Right.
do only formatting because a senior has done the drafting process.
Absolutely.
Right. So in the first few years of your work life, you're as good as an intern. It's just you're a paid intern.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between the two. People don't even take you seriously for the first 2 years of your work
Right.
because they're like, "ठीक है, अभी they're learning. Let them learn. Then we will start putting some pressure on them by the time they come to third year and fourth year and so on and so forth." ये
Right.
5 साल के लिए टिक गया तो टिक गया. He'll become a partner in a law firm. That's the kind of mentality that people have now. So I think it's a law firm structure shift also that we are going to see.
Yeah.
Definitely, there has been a change.
Yeah.
Law firms are addressing this.
Yeah.
All law firms, all chambers are addressing both the issue of work-life balance, the issue of payments, the issue of this kind of a harassment in law firm circles, etc. I think there has been a systemic shift. There is a big shift between what it was in the early 2000s to what it is now, and there is definitely bound to be a shift in the coming 10 years as well. But I think some people just realize that big law is not their cup of tea. Right? People realize that, yeah, listen, I want a 9 to 5 job. So I'm happy going into a company, etc. Pay is not great, but it's enough to, sustain me in a house. I can have a house. I can have a family. I want to enjoy that portion of the life. There are different aspects of life that people want to enjoy. If there are some people who are like, listen, I want to be Harvey Specter, then you have to do all the work to become Harvey Specter.
Right. True.
Right. So that's the mentality. Everybody cannot match all mentalities.
Yeah.
Right. An employer cannot match everybody's this thing. An employer has his own vision.
Right.
He has his own vision saying that I want to drive the law firm in this way. And people who support this vision only can follow him.
Absolutely. No. So definitely, and since you brought in Suits, also there's a part wherein Harvey Specter, for people who have watched in, he comes in late and Mike asks him that why does nobody question you? You can come in at any time you want to. He said, I worked when I used to work here at the week. They felt like I worked 100 hours a day, and so now
Exactly.
You can question me whenever I want to walk. No, that is absolutely there, sir. And in general, also, I mean, the kind of insights that you have given today, I'm sure anyone who watches it who's trying to get into the field of law, I hope they really, really enjoy it. Sir, one last question to you will be that there is a very interesting thing that I found in your bio. Is that you set up even offices or verticals? I mean, you can correct me in London as well. And then there is some sort of an international networking that's also there.
No, so I worked for one of the firms when they set up their London office, and I'd
Right.
set up the London office in that sense. But
Okay.
I was also studying at that point of time, so I'd set up the London office then. But yes, I have a decent, because I'd studied in London, I have a decent network in London.
Right.
But in my current firm, I don't have a practice outside of Bangalore. I do have different verticals. It's a growing firm, but
Right.
it's still a boutique firm, and I'd like to keep it boutique because I don't want to create,
Yeah.
a 500 or 1,000, and that's not in my control.
Right.
That's
Right.
there are a lot of elements to it.
Absolutely.
But for now, I'm very happy with where I am, and it's a good office. It's a small office of 30 odd people. We've come a long way.
Yeah.
For people who are there with me, they are happy in terms of both work life balance. Some of them, I'm sure, are not happy with the pay, but to those people who are actually watching this, and I keep telling everybody else as well, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I grow. It's not like I'm sitting on a pot of money and I don't want to give it to
Right.
people.
Right.
It's
Right.
not like I'm, that Dr. Scrooge or whatever those Donald Duck characters. It's not. I'm not sitting on a pile of
Yeah.
money and I'm not giving it to people, right?
Yeah.
I believe in the concept of sharing. Whatever comes in goes out,
Yeah.
right? I keep what I have to keep because I want a comfortable life at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I also ensure that everybody around me is also comfortable because I am not the only person who is working for a success of a client. There
Absolutely.
are 25 other people in my firm who are working and who are also contribute to
100.
every client that we have,
That's true.
right? And I think I need to recognize the fact that there are also all of those people who contribute equally.
Mhm.
So as we grow, they will also grow,
True. Yeah.
and that's the philosophy I live with.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy sharing the pot of money that I get.
No, no, definitely, and that is good for someone who's might hear it also from your firm also. But sir, like so, the entire idea also because I pointed out to this aspect is because I just wanted to understand, in the sense that how international exposure does it also sort of play into your practice here, but also in general, apart from that, so the ratings and rankings also. A lot of firms engage in all these awards. There is the ALB, there is this business, I think legal 500. There are different kinds of FOB lists coming out, and all of that is there. Do you think that also plays out into the psyche of the client, like from a person who's like, let's say, who's trying to be an employer, or who's already an employer, and let's say who's starting out. Let's say you've already started out, you're 10 or 12 years down in the profession. Somebody who's, let's say, starting out, do these sort of brandings also sort of matter a lot, or is it no, it's just what the word of mouth that actually matters, and nobody's going to check if you're a Forbes lawyer as long as you're just fucking like doing your work
See,
right.
if this video is going to be viewed by all the law firms,
Yeah.
then I'm not going to answer that question because then everybody's going to find my house and come and slaughter me here and go.
Okay.
But to be frank, I have been through rankings. I've been in big law,
Yeah.
and I have been through your legal 500s and whatever. I've been ranked myself,
Right.
for various streams, etc. Having started my own firm, I
Just a
I'm
second,
sorry.
maybe I'll rephrase it so that even any if big law firm hears it, they can also understand. Do these rankings and ratings matter to you in terms of the clientele that you have created? Did it matter, or like for you?
It does. I think a client also looks at the kind of reviews and rankings that you have.
Right.
But I would also give the benefit of the doubt to the client, because at the end of the day, the client's relationship is forged with the experience that you have.
Yeah.
It is also forged with the fact that you bring in an extra set of knowledge sphere to the table,
Right.
right? If a client comes to you with for a lack of better understanding, if a client comes to you with 100 crore show cause notice and he says, "Listen, dude, I what I've done is right.
Right.
Right now, you have to wriggle this out for me. And if you're able to give him that contribution in the form of a stay order or a disposal of that matter, etc., then no amount of ranking is going to substantiate what you've done.
Absolutely.
Right? The client is going to stick with you irrespective of whether you get ranked or not.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think rankings often reflect the kind of work that you do. I think the work that you do is a far more bigger reflection of your knowledge and the amount of client and the clientele that you have. You possibly give 1/10 or 1/20th of that list to a ranking agency and say, listen, this is the kind of work that I've done in the last 1-2 years, etc. And especially when you do something like litigation, at least I have created a space around me now where I can call myself a law firm or a boutique law firm, etc. But there are a lot of lawyers who are very well known in the circle and don't even care about rankings. Right? A lot of people don't even care for a senior gown. They don't even care for a position in, as a judge, etc. They don't care. They're very happy doing what they are, and they're doing typically the kind of service that you're supposed to do as a lawyer, right? Which is why you have those pouches at the back for senior counsels and junior counsels and all that. You have pouches on your back because you're not supposed to technically charge fees, right? The client is supposed to put money in that pouch and say thank you for doing service. Right? That's the whole orientation behind that pouch that you have, right? So I don't think rankings are negative. But I also wouldn't harp on it for somebody to say that only if you're ranked are you a good lawyer. Right? That's not correct. I think a lot of lawyers do a lot of good work. Even within the big law firms, there are a lot of lawyers and partners who don't get ranked. But that doesn't mean they don't do good work, right? They do good work. They just don't care for rankings.
Right. It's not essentially the end of the world. It doesn't matter. Maybe
absolutely.
Comes to you, let's say, seeing the ranking, he's not going to stick to you if you are going to not deliver on whatever,
Absolutely.
I think that is sort of the takeaway from this also. No, sir, but in general, a really big thank you to you for today's episode, because more than, generally I try and engage a lot more and I interact a lot more with whoever comes as the guest. Today, I just more for wanted to take a back seat. In fact, few of the times I didn't also want to ask a question. It is just because you stopped is that I sort of asked the question. The fact that you were speaking so articulately, and the amount of insights that you gave in terms of, even the practical aspects, that recording thing. And, I generally switch between English and Hindi because that is the kind of audience I have, but I stuck to English today a lot. But the entire idea of even I'll say it in Hindi also for people who watch it in Hindi, जो recording वाली चीज है, whether it's that और किस तरह से अपने सीनियर से बात करनी है, कैसे आपको एक नेटवर्क क्रिएट करना है, किस तरीके से यू हैव टू हैव अ माइंडसेट, जिस तरह से आप चीजों को अप्रोच कर रहे हो, आपका विजन क्या है, वेदर इट्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू अ लॉ चेंबर और अ लॉ फर्म, and the idea of even keeping your mental health intact. This like covers a whole lot of a portion. Today it's like a, एक छप्पन भोग थाली जो होती है, sir, it's just like that. It's like everything was there on the plate, and you really sort of delved into a lot of different areas. And I think I attended this more as a like young student who wants to sort of do well in the profession, or get into the profession, rather than just the fact that I'm the host of the show. And that is what sort of justifies your greatness and the very reason why I invited you to the show.
Don't do all this greatness. See, I'm neither a senior in that sense at the bar. I've only done maybe 12, 13 years in the profession, but I have only been able to share the learnings that I have had. If you look at far greater seniors, far better seniors, there are lots of people that you can get insights from. But I think this whole concept that because you've spent 10 years and 12 years and so and all of that, you're doing well in the profession. No, I think that there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of good work in the profession, and everybody will have their own sort of insights to share. But I must congratulate you for having such a fantastic show. I didn't know about this till you reached out to me, but I have seen a couple of your videos after that. So I'm very glad that you've been able to come up with this sort of a talk show within your circle, and great heights to you here on. And that's the only thing I can wish you.
No, thank you so much, sir, for the closing statement. I think we're going to take that closing statement. I say it in most of my videos and put it in the front, and we'll probably have the entire interview rolled out. No, but the entire point of even saying that, sir, I don't think it's just like, to be very fair, a lot of people personally who have helped me might not be 20 years down in the profession, but they've helped me a lot. They might just be 2, 3 years older to me, and someone who's maybe, let's say, 30 years older also might not be willing to help. It is, the greatness is in the sense of your being sort of adaptable to the situation, and the way you have reached out even to the all the young aspirants. A lot of people don't want to share their insights. It's as simple as that. So that is also there, and there is no harm. There is nothing that sort of differentiates in the kind of quality work they do. And I am all for the quality work they do. But the idea that coming up to a podcast like this, and then reaching out to the kind of audience that sort of needs this, need is the word, because there is a lot of gap that I personally feel, even with respect to, a lot of colleges do not have this, students do not have this understanding within those colleges as to where and what to do and where should I go with my life. So thank you so much for joining us today on this note, and on your closing statement, which we'll cut in, played in a loop. I'll close today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.